As a child, I'd lie awake in the dead of night, paralyzed by fear. I'd lie perfectly still, my breath shallow, praying the slightest sound wouldn't give me away. My ears strained for any hint of what might be creeping toward my bedroom door from down the hallway. The fear gnawed at me, creeping deeper with every passing second, until I swore the footsteps were real. Then, without warning, my door would creak open. But in the suffocating darkness, I couldn't see the figure standing just inches from my bed. I work the late shift at a bar in the city. It's busy, but when I get off, the streets are mostly quiet, except for a few stragglers waiting for their taxis. I've gotten used to walking home alone. I've lived here my entire life and have never had any problems. That night, a coworker was talking about her childhood friend, Rachel. "She just up and left," she said, barely looking up from her phone. "Texted me this morning, said she was running away. No explanation. Haven't heard from her since." Tired and wanting my shift to be over, I shrugged. People do weird stuff. At 3 a.m., I finished mopping, locked the door, and stepped into the silence of the night. I was halfway home when I saw him. A giant man sitting on a bench near a bus stop. His head was buried in his hands, shoulders shaking. I hesitated, but something about him made me want to help. Maybe it was the vulnerability, just the way he seemed. Lost. I walked over slowly. "Hey man, are you alright?" He looked up, eyes red. Despite his size, there was something soft about his face. He sniffled, wiped his nose. I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart, you know?" Now, I've been through some tough times in my recent life, and for some reason, I just sympathized with this guy. I'll admit, chatting with a stranger in the middle of the night at a bus stop was probably not the best idea. But at this point, I was invested, felt obligated, so I heard him out. Basically, he said he's an outcast, that nobody in his life trusts him. He tries to be there for them during hard times, goes out of his way to do nice things. He said he even draws them stunning pictures to cheer them up. But they never want his help. They turn him away, shun him. Anyway, after about 20 minutes, he stopped crying, told me his name was Henry, and thanked me. I could tell he was feeling better, and I finished my walk home feeling like I had truly helped somebody. My good deed for the day. The next morning, when I walked into work, the TV behind the bar caught my attention. The local news was covering a recent murder. They showed a photo of the crime scene. Tears were drawn on the wall. A coworker walked by. "Crazy things happen in the city," he said, kinda rolling his eyes. Walking home that night, I passed by the bench where the man had been crying the night before. I thought back to it and wondered how he was doing. But something on the bench caught my eye. I walked up and unfolded a piece of paper that was taped to the backstop. "Thank you for last night. Nobody takes the time to listen like you did." I glanced around, but there was no sign of him. I wondered how the wind hadn't blown it away, or how some drunk person on their way home from the bar hadn't taken it. In that moment, I felt uneasy, like maybe he was still around. The next day at work, I couldn't stop thinking about that damn note. But as soon as I stepped behind the bar, I froze. Henry, he was sitting there. He smiled as I walked up, his large frame barely fitting in the seat. "Hey," he greeted, voice casual, like we were old friends. "Glad to see you made it in. What did you think of my note?" My heart skipped a beat. The note. I forced a smile, trying to hide the chill creeping up my spine. "Yeah, I liked it. Thanks for that." He leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now. "I'm glad you appreciated it. I don't always get the chance to talk to people, you know?" His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my throat go dry. Not everyone listens. And just like that, he stood up, left $20 on the bar, and walked out onto the street. That night, I called a cab to bring me home. After what had happened, there was no way I was walking past that bench again. That night, I woke up to a faint sound coming from downstairs. My heart started pounding as I sat up, trying to shake off the sleep. It was just past 3 a.m. I crept downstairs, the noise becoming clearer with every step. I flipped the light switch on and froze. There were drawings all over my walls, teardrops covering every inch. I turned around, heart racing, and that's when I saw him, Henry, standing there, just inside my doorway, looking calm, like he'd been waiting. His voice was soft, almost affectionate. "Remember I told you I draw pictures for the people I really care about?" My stomach twisted. I couldn't move. His eyes, though warm, had a chilling edge. He stepped closer, his voice dropping lower. "The thing is, if people don't appreciate my pictures, if they turn me away, well, that friendship can never be repaired." Terror gripped me, but I knew I had to play along. My mind raced. I couldn't outrun him. I couldn't fight him. I like the pictures," I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "I do. I'm just surprised, you know?" Henry studied me for a moment and then nodded. "I'm glad you understand." He stepped back, his smile widening. He looked down at his wrist to a non-existent watch and said, "I didn't realize how late it is. I'll leave you to it." He turned and walked out the door without another word. I waited for what felt like hours, barely breathing. As soon as I thought he was gone for good, I grabbed my phone and called the police. The next morning, the news was everywhere. Henry Walker had been arrested. The police followed him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. In one room, they discovered 5 bodies. One of the victims was Rachel, Samantha's friend who had run away. Most disturbing, the walls of the warehouse were all covered in tear drawings, just like the ones on my own wall. And the notes, unopened, some of them, scrawled with, "Thank you for listening." They found dozens, each one from a victim who never made it out. Apparently, when his victims didn't accept his friendship, he'd tie them up. Then he'd try to comfort them, saying he was being a good friend before eventually killing them. This is what he meant when he said nobody accepts his friendship or nice gestures that first night at the bench. His warped mind couldn't handle rejection. I still do good deeds, but never ones that require talking to strangers in the middle of the night, and I hope you don't either. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and comment. It really helps out the channel, especially when it's this new. If you liked this type of story, let me know in the comments. This was more of a slasher serial killer story as opposed to like supernatural that I normally do. Anyway, let me know. Thanks for watching and we'll talk to you soon.